So I used to know a girl a few years ago. She was really quiet and she never really spoke that much. She was always passionate and believed in herself, but there was always something that was holding her back, and that was being quiet. So I was always a quiet child growing up, and there was no reason for me to be quiet. It was just who I was, and that was just me naturally. And there's a lot of misconceptions about young children that are quiet, which I've found throughout my confidence journey. So I was particularly quiet in school. So there's always that one kid in school that's known as the quiet one, and that was me. So through school, I realized that being quiet, people always have certain connotations with that. And it could be always asking if I'm okay or if I'm upset because I don't talk much. And that there was nothing like that at all. So I'd always find that I got emotional if I felt uncomfortable, and people asking me if I was okay all the time or asking me if I was upset then resulted in me feeling uncomfortable, in which I would I'd feel uncomfortable, which would then make me feel emotional, which was kind of like turning tables. They'd ask me if I was emotional. I wasn't, but the more they asked, I'd then get emotional. So this was me, the old me, which was just naturally quiet, as I said, and I was just happy staying in my comfort zone. So I always loved reading when I was younger. There was just something about it. And I'd get so excited getting a new reading book in school, which, again, some people wouldn't find that very exciting. And throughout school, I'd always be really interested in computers as well. Anything to do with technical problems or solutions that I was thinking of, like that really excited me. So towards the end of 2006 was when I was finishing primary school. So sorry if that does make you feel old, but it was then the move to secondary school. So that was quite daunting because I'd found growing up that I felt more comfortable around people that I'd known for a while. And all these people were going to be new at school. So throughout secondary school, I was kind of in my own shell, and I'd only speak if I was spoken to. And towards the end of secondary school was when I really started to come out of my shell a little bit. So I'd always surround myself with other quiet people, because that's what I felt comfortable with. I didn't feel comfortable being center of attention in class. I didn't want the spotlight to just be on me and for people to only listen to me, if that made sense. So throughout school was when I realized that what I was actually lacking was confidence. I believed that you either had confidence or you didn't. And for me, I didn't. And I wasn't under the impression at that time that you can build on your confidence and you can become that more confident person. I also realized that I was lacking courage to act on that confidence as well. So I didn't have the courage to make certain decisions or carry out certain actions that would allow me to push myself out of my comfort zone and build on that confidence itself. So throughout high school, I was always interested in IT, and anything to do with creativeness, I loved it. And in primary school, we did IT lessons, and I'd always be so excited to get on the computer. And I don't know if anyone has ever used Dazzle, which is an old software that we used in school, but I loved it. And my favorite was the rainbow brush. It was just so exciting. Like, no one else had the same feelings towards that brush that I did. So, and throughout my career now, it's interesting to look back on me having such an interest in that software, because now I use creative software every day in my role. And it's nice to reflect on them times and how my interests have carried through to my job today. So, towards the end of secondary school was the decision of going to college and deciding what to study at college. So, of course, I was studying IT. I picked that as one of my main subjects. I was also studying media studies and film studies and English language. And you can see there's a pattern there that they all involve creativity, and I couldn't wait to get started. So the first day of college came, and along with it was the dreaded icebreakers in class. So the teacher, okay, we're going to go around the room and we're going to introduce ourselves. I was sat there thinking, oh no, why do we have to do that? And I dread the moment when it was getting closer and closer to me to actually speak. And throughout college was when a real light bulb moment happened for me. I can't remember the exact situation, but I overheard a phrase, and someone said, I'm more of an extrovert than an introvert. And I'd heard these words before, and I was under the impression that an extrovert was someone that was outgoing and someone that was loud, whereas an introvert was someone that was more quiet and more reserved. And it wasn't until I looked into the theory around that in more detail that it really, really resonated with me. So we can think of extroverts and introverts as a scale. So on one end, we have the introverts. So these are typically refined as reserved individuals. They may not like group discussions or being in crowded places with lots of people. They don't like being the center of attention or the spotlight being on them. On the other end of the scale, we have extroverts. So these are more outgoing individuals. They love and crave social situations with lots of people. And extroverts can be known to crave that social interaction when they haven't seen someone for what them feels like a very long time, but to an introvert, that's their place to be. So we also have ambiverts, which may sit in the middle of this scale, and they may not exactly be an extrovert or an introvert. They may carry traits of both sides, and they're known to have the best of both worlds. They're not too outgoing, they're not too quiet, they're somewhere in the middle of that scale. So I'd place myself towards the introvert end of the scale, just naturally, especially more when I was growing up. And everything I was reading about an introvert was just describing myself. And after realizing I was an introvert, that was it. I was an introvert. Great. So the book closed, and I didn't open that again for a long time. So while I was at college as well, we went on holiday with family, and we went to Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands. And one evening, we found an Irish bar with live music, and the atmosphere was great. It was packed. I remember I was sat there with a glass of Coke, of course, because I was only 16. And I remember turning round to someone tapping me on the shoulder. I turned round to the musician off stage, stood getting my attention with my dad stood next to him. And the conversation went something like this. Do you play guitar? And I was so confused. And I was like, yeah. And then What had happened was my dad had nipped out for a cigarette, naughty smokers, and the musician had also gone out for a cigarette. And my dad is the type of dad that is so proud of me and he wants to show me off to the whole world. And he told the musician that I played guitar. So back to the conversation. He said, "What can you play?" And typical beginner guitarist response, Wonderwall. He said, "Do you want to come up on stage and play it?" Instantly, I just backed down. I was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I can't do that in front of all these people." The bar was literally packed. There was hardly any seats. So he said, "Well, can you play it?" So I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Come on then." And he just walked off to the stage. So I was left sat there thinking, well, I can't really not go up now. I'm not shouting no in front of everybody. So I started walking off to the front of the room, looking back at my dad, going, "What have you said?" And the anxiety was building up and up as I was getting to the front of the stage. As soon as I sat down, a guitar was handed to me straight away with the guitar pick. And I just looked up and I just seen a sea full of eyes just looking right at me. And that was my worst nightmare at that point, at that age. So I started playing. Everyone was singing. But what was going through my head was, I'm going to get a chord wrong. I'm going to get booed off stage. Everyone's going to laugh at me if I get it wrong. Anyway, I finished Wonderwall, and everyone clapped and wanted another song. Nobody booed. I probably got a few chords wrong. I definitely was out of timing. It was a really slow version of Wonderwall. But afterwards, everyone loved it, and everyone wanted another song. And of course, being a beginner guitarist, it was Stand By Me. So throughout the rest of that holiday, I was up on stage every night in the same bar with the same musicians. And we kind of built a relationship, and I felt more comfortable the more I did it. So after we came home from that holiday, I then went back into that quiet Zoe, and I was somewhere on the other side of the world. Nobody knew me, and I felt comfortable doing that. Whereas now I was back home, everyone knew who I was, and I wouldn't dream of doing that at home. So I decided to push myself a bit more, and I actually joined a music club in my local library, and I was playing guitar there too. And we then did a show at the Royal Northern College of Music, and I was up on stage on my own. No one with me, which was a bit daunting. And the more I did it, like I said, the more comfortable I became at being center of attention. So I then pushed myself to join the choir at college, and I can't sing, don't think I can sing, but it was something to be involved in. And again, we were doing shows, and I became more comfortable being in front of large audiences. And one of the things I used to think over and over was, just forget everyone in the room. I can do what I'm doing. If I go wrong, and I'll learn from it. But just forget anybody sat there. And right now, it's deja vu, times about 10. So I was pushing myself. And by the end of college, I then had the choice of going to university or doing an apprenticeship. And I was set on an apprenticeship. And I was set on doing an apprenticeship in technology as well, because my love for IT pushed me in that direction. So again, with moving out of college and finding that apprenticeship, came interviews as well. And interviews didn't really bother me, because typically they're one-to-one, and introverts are fine with that, right? So it was fine. Until one day, I got an interview invitation through my emails, and it was from the BBC. And I was thinking, oh, that's so exciting. I was so excited, clicked on the email until I read the details. Group interview. Instantly, I backed away from it. It was like the excitement was just sucked out of me. And I instantly told myself I wasn't going to get that apprenticeship because I'm too quiet. I won't stand out in a group of people for an employee. I don't have the skills to show that I can take leadership or try and manage the team, if that makes sense. I attended the interview. I decided to just try, and it wasn't my scene at all. Cue even quieter Zoe. I ended up doing an apprenticeship in software development in a company in Media City, and that was really exciting for someone that was into creativeness, because that was just surrounding you in Media City itself. And I did my apprenticeship in software development because I'd always been interested in websites and how they're built in the background, and I thought I want to be able to create them as well. So we started off learning HTML and CSS, and I loved it, especially the CSS side. And then we moved on to Java and PHP, and I was enjoying it, and I was picking it up, and I was improving on it, and I was understanding it, and I was doing my own research as well. But then, ultimately, I realized that I wasn't interested in the actual way the applications were built. I was more interested in how they looked and how they felt for the users, and the more creative side of the actual websites or applications themselves. So I raised it with someone in the company during my apprenticeship, and luckily I was able to move into the design team within that company. And I started off with photoshopping people's pictures, backgrounds for their lanyards in the company, which was not very exciting, but I loved doing it, and it gave me a taste of being in the team with other designers as well. And I used to always look at other designers and be inspired by how they could portray their feelings for a specific project or their ideas. And I used to say to myself, I'll never be able to do that. I'm too quiet to get my opinions across or my thoughts across to other people. So that's where I really found my passion for design, after being in that team. And from there, I knew I had a dream, but there was always being quiet that was still holding me back from achieving that. So the old me at that time used to say quotes like, I'll never be able to do that. I remember a conversation with my mum a few years back during my apprenticeship, and I used to explain to her that everyone can talk really well. I don't understand how the words just come out so fluid, and I'll never be able to do that. And I told myself that I couldn't do it because I was quiet, and I wasn't in the mindset that I can get out of that quiet phase and I can improve on that going forward. I also, one of my favorites was, can you do the talking, please? If ever there was a meeting with customers or a meeting with just other employees in the business, and my manager at the time would prompt me to share my ideas or share some work I'd been working on, and I'd back away straight away, and I'd say, can I just explain it to you, and you explain it in the meeting for me? Which now is a silly suggestion, but back then it was anything to get out of that uncomfortable feeling that I was going to have. Another one, I'm not ready to take that next step. I always told myself I wasn't ready to push myself on even further. And that's kind of a worrying cycle, because if you tell yourself you're not going to be able to do something, then you'll never do it. And if you tell yourself you're not ready over and over again, you're never going to be ready to do it. It's like the phrase that you can't carry out the same action over and over again and expect different results. So That was the old me. And unfortunately, I didn't finish my apprenticeship at the company I was at because it went into liquidation. So, as you can imagine, I just found my passion in design, and then it all just got taken away because I wasn't needed anymore. The company wasn't carrying on. And it was kind of disheartening for me because I'd found what I wanted to do, and I was only just getting started. And then I was left with not enough experience to then obtain a junior designer role. So I thought about, well, maybe I should try something different. Maybe I should go on a different career path. But then I thought, well, why would I do that if I'm really passionate about it and I like it? So I decided to take it on myself to self-study design itself. So I was reading loads of articles, I was watching loads of videos, I was watching other designers and how they speak about their designs and how passionate they portrayed their message to others. And I worked on that for a few months, and I do my own little projects in my spare time to improve my skills and improve how I actually design applications or websites. So I then found a position at an agency in Manchester city centre, and it was for an interactive designer role. And I thought, oh, I'll just try it. I haven't got the experience, but I'll just try and apply for it. So I put my own portfolio together, and as you can imagine, there was no customer projects in there. They were all my own made-up projects. And I thought, someone's going to find me out. Someone's going to know that I've done all this myself, and it's not real, got purpose. There was no purpose behind it. It was just something I was doing myself. So I got an interview at the agency, and I got another interview with a design task. And then I got another interview, which was a very long process. And during all this, I was thinking, are they going to realise that I'm not good enough for this? Because it's taken so long, when in reality, that was just the process of their employment and recruitment. And I got the position in the end, and I started as an interactive designer. I was working on real customer projects, and it was so exciting. I improved and improved going forward, but whenever there was a meeting with customers or an internal meeting in the office, I'd back away again, and I'd say, I can't do that, someone else will have to do the talking. It's not for me. And after a while working at that company, in 2018, it then got acquired by A&S Group. So again, it was a move to a new place with new people, which again was a bit daunting. And the transformational moment for me was joining A&S Group. It really enabled me to push myself even further than I had done before. And I was working on really big projects that had really complex requirements, and I was then translating that into easy-to-use interfaces. And I remember one of my first big projects at A&S Group, and I was so overwhelmed. I had all this information from the customer, tons and tons of requirements, and I felt like I wasn't ready to take on that project. I didn't feel like I was good enough to do that project. And I spoke to someone at the company, and I shared how I felt, which isn't like me, and I said, I don't feel ready for this. And they reassured me that I was ready, and I was ready enough to even present the work I'd done to the customer. And I was like, what? Are you sure? But anyway, I committed to it because of the support that I'd received and the reassurance from other people. As soon as I committed, I decided I didn't want to do it. Why did I just commit to that? And I put a lot of prep in for the meeting itself. And the day of the meeting came, and I was so nervous. This was the first time I was speaking in front of a group of people. Yeah, I'd played guitar before, but it didn't matter that I was quiet at that time because I weren't speaking. So the meeting started. It was a big boardroom. All the customers came in suits. And I was thinking, oh no, I can't do this. And I was so tempted to say to someone, look, can you do the talking instead for me? Can you walk through it? But I didn't. I went for it, and as soon as I started talking, the passion took over. And the meeting actually overran because I was talking that much, which isn't like me. But the customers wanted me to carry on because they were interested in what I was talking about. And after that meeting, I was inundated with praise. And then I finally realized that I can do it. I am capable of doing it. I just need to push myself out of my comfort zone more and ignore that fear that was stopping me in the first place. So I joined more meetings. I got more comfortable in them situations with everyone looking at me because I knew what I was talking about and I was passionate about it. So I just let that come across to the audience that I was talking to. So in 2020, I was promoted to senior product designer. And when I got that promotion, I took a look back and reflected on where I used to be to now, well, to that point when I got the promotion. And it was crazy how much I'd actually come on in that amount of time. And it was just all around changing my mindset and saying that I can do it and that I am ready to do it. So I kind of took them quotes that I used to say and reframed them in this new mindset. So instead of saying I will never be able to do it, I will be able to do it. And I'll be able to do it, and it may just take me a bit longer than other people because of my introverted side and because of how quiet I am. But I still know I'll be able to get there. It may just take a little bit longer. Instead of saying, can you do the talking, please? I now always want to do the talking. So there's me and one other designer in our current team. And there's projects that sometimes I have to take a back seat on and let the other designer shine. And I have all these ideas in my head of how I want it to work and how I want it to look. And I have to just think, right, stop. You can't do everything. And I now have the nickname of Columbo at work. So I had to actually do some research because it was quite a bit before my time. I didn't know who Columbo was, and I was like, so I Googled it, and it turns out he's a detective that is known for his phrase, just one more thing. And in meetings, we'll wrap up, everyone's finished, we're about to end the call, and it'll be me that goes, just one more thing, what about if we do this, or how about we do this, or what are you thinking about this? So I should have actually got the jacket he's famous for and wore it today. Another reframe I've taken is I am ready to take that next step. I'm not going to put things off in future. I'm not going to say I'm not ready to do it. And one of them things that I do want to achieve is moving into more of a leadership position. And I've always wanted to do that, but I always imagined doing that when I was a lot older, to give me that time to build up to that leadership position. And I now know I can do it. And it is a future goal, of course. I need to improve and get the skills needed for that leadership position. But I know I'll be able to do it. And I'll set micro-step goals to achieving that bigger long-term goal so it's easier manageable. And so it doesn't get forgotten and put off. So there's a lot of things I've learned along my journey throughout the growth of my confidence. And one of the key things is that confidence is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And you may not be naturally confident, but you can be if you work at it and if you push yourself out of your comfort zone and you try your best to improve and ignore that fear that's stopping you in the first place. Another massive one is having the support of people to help you improve and to carry on through that journey. And I've been so lucky to have people, not just friends and family, but people in the workplace that support my growth and support me moving forward, which is a massive, massive impact on me itself. And even if you don't have that support, there's always constructive feedback that you can get from people to help improve yourself as well. So again, some people may not be lucky enough to have that guidance or that support in the workplace. But if you're brave enough to ask for feedback and you take it with a pinch of salt and you learn from it going forward, then there's no reason why you can't achieve them things you want to achieve. Another thing is surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and that show the passion that you do. And again, I'm so lucky to have a team that I work with, which a lot of them are here today as well to show support, that we're all so passionate about the projects we work on. And it's so nice being in a team like that because you just strive to achieve more going forward. And you're all in it together, contributing to each other's success as well. And another big one is knocking down those barriers. So a lot of the barriers are what you create in your own head. And they're not real, you just believe they're real because you tell yourself them over and over again. If we change the way we think, we change the way we act, and ultimately that then improves us as a person overall. And last but not least, that time waits for no one. If you're always putting things off and always saying you're not going to do them, you'll never end up doing them. If you've got a dream and you want to do something, then just go for it. If you're quiet like me, don't let that put you off, or don't let that cause a barrier to stop you doing what you want to do. And just one more thing. The old me was an introvert. So the new me, or the current me now, is still an introvert, but a confident one. And the future me, again, will still be an introvert, but she'll be confident enough to take on the world. Thank you.